The Seed and the Wind. By Noble-Cordy. As autumn rested its tired head, a tiny seed lay on the cold, uncaring ground. Her fine, fragile, feathery pappus lay limp, almost expired. Sleep would come soon, it was just a question of time. And as she embraced her destiny, a warm, tender wind caressed her gently. How lovely his embrace, how caring his touch! Responding to his affections, she freed herself from fate and allowed herself to fly. The wind admired greatly his tiny friend, and as he carried her higher and higher, she flourished in his embrace. He kept her close to his heart and she, him. It would seem nothing could separate them. Taking his newfound affection to places she didn't know existed, she saw things she didn't know were possible. How perfect their life was, how perfect and complete. And as he pushed her forward and back, up and down, around and around, she didn't seem to mind. They had each other, they were alive, and they were free, that's all that mattered. Time, having hold on measure, would see all good things come to an end. Alas, the wind, sensing his own fate, knew the time had come when he could no longer sustain his lovely little companion. The time when he, himself, would soon expire. He would have to place her back down on the cold, uncaring ground and leave her to her own fate. He didn't understand it, how could he? And how could he possibly explain to his love that he could no longer support her? That he could no longer care for her? And as he gently, ever so caringly, placed her on the frosty, winter's soil, he faded away. She couldn't understand why he had left her so, without a reason, without a word, goodbye. Heartbroken and forsaken, sadness wrapped in a blanket of sorrow, covered her as she drifted off to sleep. She cared not for what lay ahead in her next life, how could she? Time, having held direction, would see all good things begin. With the warmth of spring came new life, and so too came a new life for the little seed. Growing taller and larger than most, her spiky green stems and leaves were a testament of not only strength but also protection. Even her beautiful purple flowers displayed a shell of thorny armor. No longer a tiny, fanciful seed, this thistle was grounded with a vitality matched by few. Roots planted deeply in the rich, fertile soil nourished and supported her every need. One warm, sunny day the gentle wind whispered softly to her with his embrace, but she could not feel him there, not anymore, and although in her heart, she still dearly loved the wind, she could not allow herself to be vulnerable to his charm. With a sadness of his own making, he left her there and then, knowing he could never change her spirit. Time, having felt change, marched on. Thistle was dying, she knew this was to be her fate. Her rich green foliage, however faded, possessed an exterior harder and stronger than ever. She held on tightly to her seeds, and she would until the very end. And as the last of summer wended from view, she let go and was gone. All that remained was her legacy. The gentle wind circled around the foundlings with care. How lovely his embrace! How caring his touch! They embraced his affections, the likes of which they had never experienced but somehow knew. Released from their guarded chambers, he carried them high up into the cold autumn air, and they flourished. As he pushed them forward and back, up and down, around and around, they didn't seem to mind. They were alive and they were free. And that was all that really mattered.